Okay, so in recent weeks, I've had quite a few comments about one particular privacy tool, something that keeps coming up in our new world of age checks and VPN restrictions. So I want to tell you about a browser that routes your traffic through three different computers in different countries all over the world before it reaches any website, and it's completely free. Now, it's been around for about 20 years or more, really, and was originally developed with backing from the US Navy. And most people have heard of it. Its name is Tor. Now, lots of people assume it's only for criminals, whistleblowers, or people accessing things they probably shouldn't. But that's not really accurate. It's actually a brilliant, simple to use utility that anyone can use, and you don't need to go anywhere near the dark web either, if you don't want to. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what Tor Browser actually does, how it works, its limitations, and how it can be an important privacy tool for pretty much anyone. So let me explain how it works in plain English without getting into any complicated cryptography, as you don't really need to know about this stuff. Now, when you use a normal browser, your traffic goes directly from your device to the website you're visiting, just like this diagram. Now, Tor does something quite different. It takes your traffic and bounces it through a chain of three separate volunteer-run servers called relays before it reaches the destination, usually a website. Now, these are called the guard relay, the middle relay, and the exit relay. Now, here's the clever part. Each relay only knows the step immediately before and after it. So the guard relay knows your real IP address, but not where your traffic is going. The exit relay knows the destination IP, but nothing about who you are. So nobody in the chain has the complete picture here. And also, the traffic is encrypted in layers as it travels. Now that's where the name comes from. It's called onion routing. Each layer gets peeled away as you pass through it. So the website ends up seeing the IP address of the exit relay, not yours. So that exit relay might be in Germany, the Netherlands, France, wherever that particular volunteer server happens to be. Now, the table shows you roughly what each party can and can't see, so pause it if you need to see it. But let me show you what this process looks like in practice first. Let's use Tor. I think seeing it makes it considerably clearer than describing it. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is download and install Tor Browser. It's very straightforward. It used to be much more complicated than this. But now it's basically you download for your OS. So we've got Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and Android. There are other versions here if you've got different other platforms, and you can download the latest alpha build there as well. And it works very quickly. Just download the file and let it run, and it'll install Tor and configure it on your computer very quickly. So let's move on from there. So after you've installed the Tor browser, you just need to open it. And I've got the Tor browser open here. The first time you open it, it won't connect automatically to the Tor network. You'll get this screen. And if you don't change it, it will do this each time. If you check that button there, it will automatically connect to the Tor network when you open the Tor browser. I'm going to do that manually for the first time just to show you what happens. And you can see there it has connected. We are now connected to the Tor network. Now, it will default, well, mine has at least, to homepage, which you can change, of course, to DuckDuckGo, which is a secure version of Google, a private search engine, if you like. And let's also check. Tor have got a page just for checking that everything's set up right. And it's called Tor Check. I'll put the link below. And you can see it's torproject.org. It's a check page. And this says, congratulations, the browser is configured to use Tor. So everything's set up properly. The IP address here. Now, all websites now, when you're using this Tor browser, will see that IP address, well, in my session anyway. And that is basically the IP address of the exit relay. I was telling you about the three relays in Tor. That's the exit relay. That's the website you can see. And I'll show you a bit about that in a minute. Okay, let's now go and visit a perfectly ordinary, normal website. Let's go to the BBC. And you can see that it looks not entirely normal. Now, it works just fine. Sometimes it can be a bit slower. You've got to get used to this. It varies the speed on Tor depending on what relays you're connected to. That was relatively quickly. What you may have noticed is it rerouted to the international version of the BBC. So there are two versions of the BBC, one if you're in the UK and one if you're outside. Now, in this case, I am considered to be outside the UK because my exit relay is outside. So you can see I've gone to the international version of the BBC, but it works quite well. It works perfectly properly. So you can see I can click on the sites there. Now, let me show you something now about the circuit we've got. Now, it's quite interesting here. In the top left, you can see there's a little Tor circuit. It's a little circuit shape. I think it used to be an onion ages ago, but it's got a little circuit thing. So if you click on that, it will show you the circuit you're connected to. Now, here you will see the browser, and here you will see the guard. That's the first IP address you connect to, which is in the United States. You can see the second one is in the UK. That's the middle relay. And this is the exit relay, which is in the Netherlands. Now, I don't really have much control over this in the normal configuration, and you'll end up in different places. So you should bear that in mind when you go to visit sites. That's why I've got the international version of the BBC, because the BBC thinks I'm in the Netherlands. Now, let me show you another useful feature. If you go to that same menu again, you'll see you can select a new Tor circuit for the site. Now, if you click that button, it'll basically reload the circuit for that particular website and that particular browser session. So if we click that, you can see it reloads the BBC site, and the relay circuits will change. Now, I should point out here that the guard relay doesn't usually change. That normally stays the same. It could, but it doesn't generally. And you can see we've now got three different websites there. We've got United States. Our middle relay is now in the United States, but our exit relay is in the Netherlands. But you can see it's got a different IP address than the previous one. So if you want to change your identity quickly or change your IP address quickly, that's quite a good way of doing it. But you don't have any direct control over those relays in the default configuration. So one last thing while I'm here, there's another option called New Identity. You'll find it at the top right, and it looks like a little broom icon. Now, this is different from New Circuit. New Circuit changes the route for the current site only. New Identity closes all your tabs, wipes the browser session, and creates an entirely fresh circuit across the board. Now, you'd use that if you wanted a complete fresh start, not just a different route to one particular site. So when might a normal person actually want to use this? Well, there's lots of reasons, really. Private research, if you're looking into something sensitive, something like a medical condition, a legal situation, any topic you'd simply rather not follow you around in targeted advertising, Tor keeps that search entirely out of your profile. It avoids tracking. When you're in a Tor session, tracking is really quite difficult. The exit IP keeps changing. There's no persistent cookie linking all your sessions. And the browser itself is hardened against most standard fingerprinting techniques. It also can be used to bypass local block. If you're in a country or a workplace or a school where certain sites are blocked at the network level, Tor will route around that. Your traffic exits from somewhere else completely different, and simply keeping some browsing separate from your normal identity. Now, some people run Tor alongside a regular browser. They'll casually browse in Chrome and put all their private research or anything like that in Tor. It's a clean separation. I think it's worth noting that Tor's project's own user base is often people in high censorship countries just trying to access ordinary information, just trying to look at Facebook or trying to read the news on a news site. It used to be quite rare, this high censorship, but now it's becoming increasingly common. So that's really what it was built for, if you like. Right, let's try and be precise about this, because I think some people do carry slightly unrealistic expectations about what Tor does and doesn't actually protect. Now, first, the important bit to remember, Tor heavily encrypts your traffic between your device and the exit relay. Now, that covers the entire internal network. Your ISP can see you're connected to Tor, but nothing beyond that, really. Not the sites, not the content, anything. The exit relay is where that internal encryption ends. It sends your request onwards to the destination website. And that final leg is where HTTPS matters. So if the site uses HTTPS, which is essentially pretty much everything in 2026, the exit relay operator could see the destination but can't read the content. If it's plain HTTP, then theoretically they could. So I'd avoid those sites if security is important. Now, this is really important, and I think many guides skip this. If you log into Google or Facebook or your usual email or anything like that while using Tor, you have just told that service who you are. Now, your IP address might be an exit relay in Bucharest, but you've authenticated with an account that has your name, your search history, your email address, even your real address, phone number, everything associated with you. So the anonymity benefit largely disappears when you log in like that. Now, that doesn't mean you can never log into anything, but if you're using Tor for privacy, simply don't log into those accounts attached to that identity. So perhaps use Tor for browsing and use a regular browser for using your accounts, or create a separate account on these sites specifically for Tor if you need to log into something. Now, let's be honest about the downsides. First one, speed. Tor is slower than a regular browser, I can almost guarantee it. You're routing through 3 different relays, usually across multiple different countries, and the degree varies depending on which relays you've landed on, but you will definitely notice it. Video streaming, I wouldn't bother. It's not really fast enough. For reading, research, occasional browsing, it's fine. Now, something else to watch out for is captchas. Because Tor exit nodes are effectively shared by quite a lot of people, some websites treat connections from them as suspicious, so you'll see more of those annoying captchas than usual. Occasionally, a site will simply block Tor exit nodes entirely. It does happen quite a bit with Cloudflare protected sites. So some streaming services and subscription platforms will refuse connections from popular and known Tor exit IPs entirely. So finally, the dark web, because it would be slightly odd to make a video about Tor without even mentioning it. So strictly speaking, the dark web is broader than Tor, really, but when people talk about it in this context, they normally mean sites using .onion addresses. Now, these addresses are reached through the Tor network rather than through an ordinary browser connection, and the entire route remains inside Tor, so there's no exit relay involved. Lots of sites operate on both. The Guardian, for example, operates an official Onion version of its website. Loads of news organizations do, and they offer Onion-based drop services so sources can contact journalists more safely. So Tor Browser can access the dark web, but you don't have to use it for that at all. If you open the BBC, Wikipedia, or any normal website through Tor, you're just browsing the ordinary web through a secure network. Onion services are one feature of Tor, but they're not the whole point of it. So I think overall Tor Browser is genuinely underrated as an everyday privacy tool. It's not perfect, it's not for everything, but for research, for privacy, for avoiding tracking, for accessing content that may be blocked in your location, it does what it says. It's maintained by a non-profit and it's free. So the reputation it has, I think, is a little unfair, because most people using it are doing entirely ordinary things and simply prefer to do them privately, which seems like a perfectly reasonable preference. Anyway, stay safe, stay private, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you have enjoyed the video, and have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.